Shh. Be quiet. Don't say that.
What did I say?
Chill. Relax.
The Impossible Conversation Podcast.
Let's talk. Welcome back to the Impossible Conversations. I'm Coach Sarita.
And I'm Mira.
And as you know, with the Impossible Conversation, we shift generations through impossible conversations. So today's episode, love covers a multitude of offenses. So what that actually means is that if you're with someone and they make a mistake or they fall short, the grace and mercy that's on the inside of you should come out, and you should extend that to others. So in this episode, my thought is that we should do a deep dive into what relationships look like based off of our generations. I thought that would be kind of fun because, I mean, as you know, I'm Gen X and you're a millennial. So the way we date is completely different than each other. I mean, I dated in the late 90s, you dated now. So what we did in dating, I feel like, has some synergy, but not too much.
Not too much.
For us, I would think like if we think about elementary school, if I think back to elementary school.
Taking it back.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry.
So if I think back to elementary school and what dating looked like in the early 90s, it was like if you saw a guy that you liked, you would go over to his friends and you would tell his friend that you liked them, or, you would walk in front of their group of friends and wait for them to say something to you. And if they hit you in the head with a ball, 9 times out of 10, he liked you as well. So that's kind of like what the dating experience was like. But then in junior high school, things progressed a little bit more. I guess boys got a little bit more mature. So they were able to come over to your girlfriends and say, I like her. Is she dating anybody? Is she seeing anybody? And I think what happened then after that, I didn't date too much in junior high school. Like my father wasn't going for that. But in the few relationships that I did have in junior high school, we spent a lot of time hanging out with like friend groups. So we would go like skating together, or we would hang out at the mall together, or just do like little things like that.
Okay, elementary school. Let me think. Elementary school, I think we did the yes, no, maybe, no. So they would kind of pass that off, and then you check the yes, you check the no, or you check the maybe box. Junior high, I guess it would be the same. They were a little bit more mature, like your guys, and come up to you, at your locker when you're switching classes or something like that. Or maybe tell your girlfriends, like, like, is she dating somebody, or, I'm interested in her or something like that. Gym also was a big time because, it's a lot more freedom, a lot more running around in gym. So it's like, you run around and, while somebody's doing the what is it called? Dodgeball? Yeah. They'll run behind you and, play with you a little bit more extra than they would with the extra girls. And then you're like, I think he got a little crush on me.
Right.
And then high school, they were definitely more mature. I would say my boyfriend was really mature because my teacher would have us do affirmations some days. She was a really deep person. Shout out to Shannon Stafford, Dr. Shannon Stafford. She would have us do affirmations, and this particular day she had us go around and say something honest about one person in the classroom. And, everybody went around. I was the new girl, actually. And he just decided to say, I choose Amira for who I want to say the positive,
information
to. And he said, every day you come in the classroom, you make me smile.
Aww.
So I was like, my heart melted with that. So that was that for me. The other immature guys, they come up to you, Amira, you dating somebody, you looking good, stuff like that. So that was our pretty much experience. Progressing to now, it's different. I would say people slide in DMs. That's a thing for if they're interested in you or they like you. Or dating apps. That's another thing, another way that people reach out and show their interest in dating you.
And it's funny because I didn't even share this story. In elementary school, we had a book, and it was called the Roll Book. It was like a little black binder, and the teacher had all of the students' names, addresses, and phone numbers in it.
Oh, okay.
So believe it or not, husband this very day
Oh, wow.
went into the roll book, and I think we were in like the 5th or 6th grade or something. He went into the roll book and got my phone number out.
No.
I mean, we were like 11 or 12 or something.
You was smart.
Calls my phone one day, and I'm like, why are you calling my phone? I'm not allowed to hear phone calls. And he was like, I just wanted to tell you were cute. And I'm like, oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. At the time, I was so not interested. And many years went past as, we'll explore. But, now he is actually my husband. But the roll book was a way that guys in elementary school actually got girls' phone numbers. Because back then we had landlines. It wasn't any mobile phones.
Right.
So, he would have
So
had to call the house.
School
Yeah.
to now.
Wow. We weren't together, though.
But just knowing each other that long.
Yeah.
That's like insane.
It's insane.
like fate.
Kinda.
Wow.
Wow. Like that. So, like, our high school experience as far as dating was concerned was a lot of clothes sharing.
Okay.
Back in the day, there was, like, we would wear airbrush jackets with our names on them, or the guys hit them with their names on them.
I recall seeing them in some...
Yeah, I mean, they're really cute. You probably will bring them back. Like, they'll probably come back. But they were like the airbrush jackets. So if you were dating someone, he would let you hold his jacket.
Oh,
so that was like kind of
like marking your territory.
There you go. I was going to say the exact same thing.
Okay.
So you would walk around school all day with the jacket on, feeling like, yes, that's my dude. Letterman jackets were big.
I love those. Okay.
Yeah, if you actually were like on a sports team, you would wear your guy's jacket. And then jewelry was another thing that was really popular. So a lot of guys had like the finger rings with their names on them, or the girls did, and the guy would take the girl's ring since it was too small for their fingers and put it around their neck. So then you would look and say, oh, now they're dating, okay, whatever. So you knew that the person was off limits based off of like clothing and jewelry. That was like a really big thing for us. And how it transitioned in college, I think, was just you would be over your guy's house all the time. Like, you would be in his dorm all the time. You'd be cooking for his roommate. So you would kind of become like the third roommate inside of a dorm room. I mean, I'm not even one who cooks, but when I was dating in college, I knew like this is the thing to do. No matter what it was that you were cooking, all his friends are going to come over, and you're going to have to now make a smorgasbord
of ramen noodles.
Exactly. Right. Well, yeah. I did a little bit more than ramen noodles. Don't come for me.
Okay.
I did not much more, but I did a little bit more than ramen noodles. So I mean, like I felt like through the generations and through the cadence of schools and experiences with dating. It led me to recognize that there are so many different ways that you can date that are good, and those are positive ways. However, there's also ways that, can kind of get negative because in the same respect as you wore that jacket as a symbol of that's your boyfriend, it felt really bad when the jacket went to another girl. And then it felt even worse when, like, you didn't know y'all were done. He just asked you for your jacket back. And then next week, another girl was walking around the school with it on. So this was kind of, men have never been completely transparent. For some reason, they just don't have that 100% honesty in them. So they just couldn't say, we're no longer together. It was kind of like, take my jacket and move it on to someone else.
That has to sting.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little painful at times. But I mean, it was a norm. It was, a moire. It was what we did, in that day. So, I mean, I can't say it was the worst thing ever. Did it hurt at times? Yes. But nonetheless, it's like any breakup. It feels bad for a minute and then you keep it moving.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you guys, in relationships in this day.
Well, like I said, I've been in a relationship for 6 years, so I haven't really been on the dating scene, in a very long time. But I will say I was in a tricky situation in high school. I was dating a guy, so I thought.
Okay.
We took college courses off of campus at Eastern University, the college. And it was just like weird talk about another girl. He was older than me. He was in a higher grade than me. So it was just weird talk about a girl. And I'm just like, well, what are they talking about? But ignorance is bliss. So I didn't ask a whole lot of questions. And I just kind of like played my role.
And you were younger, so you didn't feel comfortable.
Right. So it turns out that he was dating an entirely other girl at the same time that he was dating me. And I'm just like, this is kind of awkward. So I guess with the jackets, you're not as put on the spot as if everybody around us knew that he was dating someone else.
Right.
But I just didn't. And I mean, I had a little trepidation about becoming involved with this guy. But I mean, It's just a long story about how I found out for sure that it was another girl. Put it like this. He was doing his work on my computer and we had to do something called memoirs. So it was real life stories about what was going on in our lives.
Okay.
And, you know, something told me like, read his memoir, read whatever he just did on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it like a week later and come to find out, you know, him and this girl were together. He had written a letter to their child. So that was rough. Take a sip on that. So that was rough to find out that way. But yeah, so I don't think guys have respect for us just as much as they didn't in your time, is what I'm trying to say.
It does.
And it was just a little stupid because it's like, it's my computer. You didn't even delete it.
I mean, was it his way of trying to let you know?
Who knows?
Because we know they're not very direct. They don't usually come out. In every relationship I've ever been in, it never was like an honest, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is so you always had to kind of find out. It all comes out in a wash type of situation.
Right.
So it kind of sounds like that's what he was doing, and maybe intentional or not, it was better for you because you're in a healthy relationship now.
Absolutely.
Which is a beautiful thing. And it brings me to games that guys play. It's so funny.
Games people play.
Yeah, like you don't know if who's being genuine and who's not. I mean, in my day, beepers were a really big thing also. Like they came before cell phones. And you probably know them from doctors and hospitals where they had like these little devices that they would have on their hip and then, you know, would beep when they needed to go make a phone call.
Yeah.
Well, we used to, in the same way we used to share clothing, guys would let you hold their beeper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we would tote around the beeper, and then, you know, they had these codes.
Uh-huh.
They got smart. In the beginning, the girls would just, you know, message them with their phone number.
Right.
And then you knew to call back, and you're like, who's this? Who's this? Or who's this? Who's this?
Okay.
But then the guys got smart, and they told girls, like, code numbers to put in.
Okay.
So if, like, number 53 comes up, it's like she lives on 53rd Street.
Oh.
So he knows to call back 53rd Street,
Okay.
but you don't know her number to be able to contact her.
Right. Okay.
Smart. I mean, it was kind of genius. So, you know, you would have nothing more than to say to him, like, what does 53 mean?
Right.
Isn't it 53 is my bull rock that lives on 53? You know, so then he could kind of spin it on you, and, you know, the game just continued on until the girl got really fed up and just put her number in because
I would say we have some games that we play in my generation, and they're mainly based around texting.
Okay.
So the first one would be, people usually like to take the same amount of time that you took to reply to their text message, and then like Sarah says, add 15.
Are you serious?
So yeah, you get like a penalty 15. You know, the longer you take, it's like, oh, okay, she took a half an hour to reply, or he took a half an hour to reply. I'm gonna take a half an hour, and then I'm gonna add 45 on, just to, you know, make it a full 45, just to make you wait. Yeah.
So are you actually literally timing this, or is it an approximation?
I mean, not timing, but you will look at the time. You know, it's about 1 o'clock, and you say, okay, I'll be replying about 1:45. That'll work.
So you are timing it.
Pretty much.
I mean, I just want to be sure how
these
rules work. Okay.
And then another game I can think of is when a person blocks you during an argument via text or via phone, because then they can't contact you back with their response. So, you know.
So how would you know that you were blocked, though?
Now, with text message, it won't say delivered under your message. Or if they try to call you, you know, it goes straight to voicemail.
Yeah, I know the call thing. So when you say it wouldn't show okay. So like how mine says delivered right here.
Exactly. Yep.
It would just be
blank.
Or would it be that little red thing?
No.
You know how it's red?
No, when it says not delivered,
yes.
No. You
just want I would like that one better, but okay. I mean, you learn something new every day.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think anyone's ever blocked me. But
Well,
then
that's good.
I'm not dating, so
Right.
they would have no reason to.
Right.
I think not. Those stories are all cute and funny, and it's kind of interesting how the generations have decided to continue these games on, even in the midst of trying to establish relationships. And I know in my generation, it's becoming more and more difficult to find someone to be in relationship with, just because you're getting older, you're more set in your ways. So it kind of becomes a little bit more challenging to figure out, like, where do I find someone? And now these dating apps are becoming so super popular, and I think they have ones for like older individuals. They have them for Christians. They have them, based off of race. They have them based off of sexual preferences. So, I mean, I think we kind of unpacked a lot of generational differences and how they, play themselves out in your generation and how they play themselves out in my generation. But the next thing that I was thinking of as far as dating is concerned is like, what were some of the lessons learned? In all of these experiences that we have, what did you learn from, dating?
So I had two, I like to describe them, tumultuous relationships before I found my Prince Charming.
Okay.
And the first lesson I would say that I learned is that I shouldn't have dated young.
Okay.
That was definitely a mistake I made because, and especially dating young where you're dating someone older.
Right.
Because I just felt like I was taken advantage of. So that would be the first thing, is just don't date young. And then it's a cliche, my other one is a man will only do what you allow him to do. So those are pretty simple, straight to the point. But I just feel like with my youth, it just made me be more of a yes woman, and I just didn't want you to leave, and you were older. I'm like, oh, I got this older guy, I'm looking cool. So that was definitely on my head with that one. And then with the a man will only do what you allow, it's just true. It just rings true in every situation, even man, woman, however you look at it. So I think if I was to establish some deal breakers or some things that just weren't going to fly with me, I would have been able to handle myself a lot better in relationships. So those were my two lessons learned.
Very good point. I think my biggest lesson learned in the whole dating scene is because it looks good doesn't mean it is. So, in dating, I was in a long-term relationship with someone, and, to the outside world, it looked beautiful. I mean, we were like Jay-Z, Beyonce, we were always dressed to the nines. We always had ourselves put together. We looked like we were doing really great things. I mean, we would have had tons of likes and subscribers on social media had that been a thing. But in our household, in our, cohabitation, it was none of the things that it appeared on the outside. So I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I've learned in dating is that, externally it looked all put together, but internally it was like Swiss cheese. There were so many holes. There was, the amount of fallout from that breakup in a relationship, it had some really positive effects on my life, and I'm so very grateful for it. And it's funny that when you get to a place that based off of a bad situation, that something good came out of it, I am such a better person as a result of that bad relationship. So, I think this half of the episode has been really powerful, and it has been brought to you by Mount Olive Church, where each one should reach one. They are on a mission for everyone to bring one individual to church. Mount Olive Baptist Church. I think, just in closing out this segment, it's really important in relationships to have deal breakers. The same way that you were highlighting how you were in that relationship with the older guy and you weren't ready for that relationship. So you kind of didn't put any boundaries around what was acceptable versus what was not. I think we should do that in every relationship that we have, just because if not, people will literally run all over top of us. So for me, like, a deal breaker is respect. I'm really big on people treating me with respect. I treat everyone with respect, and I just expect the same thing in return. I know a lot of people's deal breakers are like, oh my God, infidelity. And not that I accept any of those things either. But I think if you have to have something that you stand by in a relationship, like for me, respect is everything. Because
essentially, if the person respects you, they wouldn't even be infidelist. So
right, true. So that's true too.
That covers a multitude of topics.
It definitely does. And I think you can learn if someone respects you by the way they treat other people. So yeah, everyone is on their best behavior when you two first start dating, or you're able to do it for 30, 60, 90 days. But when you're out at that restaurant and the waiter brings back something that you didn't ask for, how does he respond to the waiter? If the valet doesn't get his car back to him in a certain amount of time. So I think we should always be looking to see who this is that we're really dating, because everyone puts on a persona when they first start to date.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like a deal breaker for me, I think I have two different ones. I have like a deal breaker for dating and a deal breaker for relationships. A deal breaker for dating for me would be someone that's not able to converse on a multitude of levels.
Okay.
Like I need someone who could talk about, cartoons that we watched when we was younger, all the way down to, their inner child, expressing their feelings, a person that can tap into their emotions. I never really like to have, one level of conversation. One day I could feel super happy and I could talk about all types of fun things. And then most days I'm all into my feelings. I like to, think about what I'm thinking about and feeling internally, discuss that out. So I think a person that really can't tap into their emotions and is not well versed on multiple topics would be like somebody I'm like, I don't want to take this any further than dating.
Right.
And then in a relationship, you kind of said about infidelity. I am one of those people, but hear me out. It's just simply because I internalize the action. Okay. For me, I kind of point the finger at myself and say, well, what did or didn't I do that made you feel like this was okay or that you needed to do this? So I think if I was to stay through a situation of infidelity, I would constantly be trying to change myself and be different from whatever I was that made you, cheat in the first place. So
not recognizing that it had nothing to do
exactly.
with it. And I mean, it's really good that you bring that up because, I also wanted to share this book that both of us have read by Shanti Feldhahn,
For Women Only.
For Women Only. And, you don't have the paper copy. I know you probably read it online or whatever you did. But
book.
That book is so powerful because what it highlights is just the differences in men and women, and not just from a perspective of, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's data driven. Shanti is an analyst, so she actually went out and researched thousands of men from various backgrounds, from various cultures, from various social economic statuses, and from various religious affiliations, which was really important to me. And in that message that you're saying about one of your deal breakers being infidelity, an aha moment for me. And I don't know, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm living under a rock, whatever, but I did not realize that men's minds are wired to download every sexual image that they see. When I read that in the book, I was just like, jaw drop.
Definitely a jaw dropper. Yep, I was gonna say.
Jaw drop. I did not realize that literally anything that walks past them is like they process it in their brains and it downloads into the computer of their mind. So it's a matter of what they do with the information once they receive it. So does now they want to act on that information? Now do they say, oh, she looks a hot mess? Now do they say, oh, I wish I could see more? That was such an aha moment for me. She actually shared in the book that this couple was walking through the mall, and I'm paraphrasing, and they had their 4-year-old son. This is how quickly this part of their brain actually goes into effect.
I remember this one.
They're walking through the mall, and all of a sudden, the 4-year-old son is no longer with them. So, of course, what happens with parents? You go into panic mode. So they're looking all over, calling his name, looking all over. They start walking back the way they were coming. He stopped in front of Victoria's Secret looking at the life-size model with her panties and bra on. I'm like, at 4 years old, he already recognizes that that's a sexual image. So that kind of made me look at men a lot differently, because I was one who really did not like a man with a wandering eye.
So annoying.
If a man does a double take, especially if he's with his woman, I'm like, I want to go to the girl and be like, sis,
check him in.
You do? Like, he's not the one. But now that I realize that they have no control over it, I did not know that. Like, that was, when I tell you, that was such an aha for me. And I don't even think man to man they know it. I don't think they ever have the conversation and say, yo, dude, like, you check that. You see, I don't even think it's that. Like, yeah, they'll do a double take when they see something that's like inappropriate. But no one ever has spoken about the fact that we're wired to see that. We're wired to process that. We're wired to have a feeling about that thing.
They even know.
I don't know. And it caused me, of course, because I'm kind of like an interviewer too. So I said to my husband, just opened up the conversation real generally, and I'm like, babe, like, I never knew that you guys process every image that you see. So when it's a fact, this starts to hit.
Fidgety. You looking real fidgety.
So I'm like, Yeah, I said, no, it's fine.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad I know it now because I didn't know it. And thank God my husband is not one that does a double take because we wouldn't be together.
Right.
Because that was a deal breaker for me back in
Right.
the day. Because I'm like, I mean, if you're doing this in front of me, I can only imagine
What
how
you
you're
doing
responding behind my back.
Mhm.
But it caused me to actually look at men with empathy now because I didn't only read this book from the perspective of my husband.
Mhm.
I'm the mother of sons.
Right.
So now if these images are being dropped into them like landmines at this point, because every time you swipe, what do you say?
Mm-hmm.
Tits and
TNA. TNA.
all day,
Mhm.
all day. So now their minds are processing this all day. How do you not know to act on it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when a person is not saying, wait a minute, stop, wait, no,
Mm-hmm.
versus you were looking like you wanted it?
Mhm.
Everything on every timeline has some legs open.
Yep. Legs open, butt poked, booty angles.
I
Yes.
mean, it was so, when I tell you, it was so enlightening for me. Like, I really have to now have a conversation with my son and try to help him to process what do you do with these images, that they are just images. For as much as they stimulate you in all types of ways, you know, they're getting stimulated. But now that you have that overstimulation, what could it potentially cause them to be a part of?
I think the book was definitely an interesting read for me. When you told me about the book, I was like 100% I want to read it, and I downloaded it immediately. And I do a lot of analyzation. I do a lot of thinking about everybody, not just women, not just men. And although I could see a lot of the things being true, I had one instance where I was like, wait, I did not know this at all, but it makes so much sense. So in the Tough Conversations episode, I think we kind of briefed over this a little bit, but when I got my prefacing technique actually from the book.
Okay.
So it said in the book, again, paraphrasing like you, that men like to come to a conclusion before they have a conversation. But women like to talk into the conclusion.
Yep.
So as we're talking, we're figuring it out. You know,
Right.
we're trying to come to the conclusion
Right.
together. Whereas with them, they're kind of looking at us like,
I'm
this
not
is
ready.
making me nervous.
I
I didn't
wasn't
think
ready.
about this.
I wasn't ready.
I had no idea
Uh-huh.
about this. Like, you know, they're kind of nervous. That's why men tend to shut down in tough conversations.
And it's not that they're shutting
Yes,
down.
yes.
That's what I got
They're
from
just
it.
thinking
They're
about it.
processing.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
have to step away from the conversation and dissect it. And
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
Yes.
So you know, with my boyfriend, I'm just like I would think like when we're having these conversations, like, are you stupid? Like, what's going on up there? Like, hello?
Why are you looking at me?
Is it right? Is anything up there? Are you in this relationship with me? What is going on? And then it took for me to read that portion of the book, and I was like, wow, I have to have, like you say, some grace and some mercy with him. And sometimes I even go to him and say, you know, this is what's going on in my head. I know you haven't thought about it yet, so, you know,
Yes.
take your time to think about it, and then we'll come back to it at the end of the week or whenever you're ready. It just makes tough conversations in my relationship so much better. I was like, thank you, Shanti, because that one thing, I was like, what is going on? I'm going to
Girl.
strangle him.
Let me tell you another
Yes.
one for me. Self-doubt.
Okay.
I did not realize that men doubted themselves. They
Yeah.
are literally
Yeah.
walking around with what you guys call imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So all day long, they're in these positions, whatever the positions are, looking confident. Their bodies may be appearing confident, but internally there's a child. There's a little boy that's saying, "Oh my God, somebody's gonna find out. I really don't know what I'm talking about." I really don't know what I'm doing.
Actually a meme going around that says when a guy is with his bros, he's like turning up, partying, talking about his money, but then it's a picture of like a guy with his girlfriend and she's holding him feet in a bottle. Yes, feet in a bottle. I was like, that's so true. That is so true. Yes.
And I didn't realize how much we actually can tap that nerve for them. So I mean, they're so vulnerable, and it makes perfectly good sense because, like I said, I read this book from a perspective of a mother.
Yeah.
I read it from a boss of men. You know, like I have male employees.
Right.
I read it from having brother-in-laws. I read it from, you know, so I tried to look at everyone in every scenario. But to think that, you know, men every single day are thinking that I'm going to be found out, that I probably don't really belong in this position. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Just think about how many men don't have fathers. So then what are they looking to say, I'm doing a good job at this? And if us as wives, as babies, mothers, as girlfriends, if you're constantly beating them down and berating them, it's like, well, I'm not doing a good job. She realizes that I'm just an imposter. And it starts from birth, because if as a child, you're telling your son, Man up, don't cry. What are they supposed to do with those emotions?
Right.
What do they do with the emotions?
Right.
So they are vulnerable beings. And I'm like, oh my God, like I never in a million years thought that we can tear them down as much as we possibly can with the smallest amount of words, but we can lift them up with the smallest amount of words. So one example that I think she gave in the book was, versus saying to your husband, why did you do that? Because automatically what comes across to them is, I made a mistake. I did something wrong. Oh my God, she found me out. Just say to them, I know you had a reason for why you did that. Can you just share with me? What were you thinking?
Making
when you
more discussion based.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that you did a good thing because I know you prepared for this.
Right.
You did have a plan.
Right.
You had a reason for why you did it. Just share it with me versus attacking them and saying, why did you do that? And I'm like, that has completely shifted my way of communicating with my husband. And I mean, I'm sure he feels better because he doesn't come from that place of being uptight, worried, defensive, because he now knows that I'm going to come to him from a place of, I know you did think about it. What was your thought about it? Even if I don't agree.
I have a funny story that's like similar, touching this. I'm big on making sure my guy is feeling strong and feeling confident in himself and knowing that I believe in him in all ways. So we were at Top Golf.
Okay.
And neither of us knew how to play golf. We were just going for the first time. It looked cool, so we tried it. And for like the first half an hour, we were like, yo, we don't know what we're doing. We're missing the ball. It's going right in front of us. It's going nowhere near like the goals and stuff. And then, you know what, a man walked up to us who was right next to us. He walked up to me actually while I was up at the post. Is that what it's called? And he's like, let me show you how to do it. But he's like whispering. He's like, let me show you how to do this. You gotta hold it like this, put the left hand over the right hand. But he's like whispering these directions to me. So I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like how this is feeling. I don't like how this is looking. So I was like, I'm gonna get all the tea from him. I'm gonna let him spill all the tea. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna act like this is a little secret between us. So then Marquise goes to take his turn, and I'm like, oh, babe, he said, put the left hand over the right hand. Make sure you swing back. Because, like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to, and I'm not going to allow him to feel like, oh, well, what y'all got going on?
And that you have secret information.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm real big on that. I'm like, slow your brakes down a little bit. Pump your brakes on this. So, yes, I'm really big on that. And I just think this conversation just was amazing. Another impossible or I'm possible conversation. Yes. And I think we covered a multitude of topics. And I think what I really got out of this episode is that you should just love yourself first so that you know what you deserve. You know, with you and your younger relationship and with me and my younger relationship, we learned so much through the trials and tribulations that we went through. And I think that it's important that our viewers take from this episode to love yourself best so you know what you deserve.
And this has been another Impossible Conversation with Coach Sarita
and Mira.
So we'll see you again next week. Stay tuned. Bye. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Coach Sarita.
And me on Instagram at AmiraHester_. And check us both out on Instagram and YouTube at The Impossible Conversation. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys there.